My name is Charlotte, and I've always felt a little lost when it came to my career. I grew up in a small town near Chicago, surrounded by tall buildings and busy streets. Many of my friends knew exactly what they wanted to be. They would talk about their dreams of becoming doctors or engineers, while I sat quietly, unsure of my path. Each day, I woke up with a sense of dread, facing a job that didn't seem to fit me. I worked as a cashier at a grocery store, which paid the bills but left me feeling unfulfilled. Imagine scanning items quickly while pretending to be cheerful, all the while feeling like I was just going through the motions. Every afternoon, I would find myself dreaming by the windows, watching people succeed as I struggled to find my own way. Some nights, I lay in bed, wondering if I was destined to be stuck in this cycle forever. I felt confused and angry. It was a heavy feeling that weighed on my heart. I knew I needed to change, but where would I even begin? The pressure of my daily life felt overwhelming, like a fog that made it hard to see clearly. I wanted to break free from this cloudiness, to find clarity about my future, but I didn't know how. Each time I thought about my future, the uncertainty made me realize how much I needed help to guide me through this difficult time. As I began my journey to find clarity, I quickly realized it would not be easy. The first challenges hit me hard, and I felt overwhelmed by my old habits. I thought focusing on my goals would get easier, but I quickly found myself distracted. My phone would ring, or I would scroll through social media, stealing time that felt precious. I would sit down with a notebook, trying to work on my plans, but instead of writing, I found myself lost in thoughts about my old job. Would I always be stuck here, in this frustrating cycle? Every time I tried to concentrate, my mind would wander back to the grocery store. I replayed conversations with customers, remembered the feeling of the scanner in my hand, and pondered what more I wanted from life. I felt anxiety creeping in with each failed attempt. What if I cannot change? I wondered silently. It was hard to shake off the feeling of self-doubt that wrapped itself around me like a heavy blanket on a cold night. When I could, I even tried deep work strategies, setting up specific times without distractions, aiming to reach a state of focus. But even then, moments came that crushed my spirits. A single notification on my phone pulled me away from my thoughts, erupting the quiet focus I fought hard to maintain. I found myself getting angry, not just at the distractions, but at myself for lost time. Why is this so hard? I asked myself repeatedly, experiencing the oppressive weight of my old routines and fears dragging me back down. It seemed every frustration threatened my confidence, and part of me wanted to throw in the towel. The thought of quitting whispered sweet nothings to me, almost convincing me that it would be easier to give up. Yet, deep down, I knew that giving up was not the answer. I could feel a tiny flicker of determination burning within me, fighting against the darkness of doubt that surrounded it. In a moment of chance, I heard about a book from a friend. "You should read Mindset, The New Psychology of Success by Carol S. Dweck," she told me with enthusiasm. Skeptical but curious, I borrowed the book, hoping it could help shift my understanding of my own abilities. As I flipped through the pages, I found words that began to reshape my thoughts. The author spoke about growth versus fixed mindsets. I learned that many successful people face struggle and doubt but thrive because they refuse to let these feelings defeat them. Each chapter brought new ideas. I discovered that failures could teach me rather than knock me down. It began to shift my perspective bit by bit. When I put the book down, I felt a small sense of hope beginning to bloom. Although I was still struggling, I understood one thing: every challenge is part of my journey. I did not have to let my fears be the end of my story. Instead, they could be steps towards becoming stronger. The next day, I would start again, armed with this newfound awareness and a better approach. It felt as if a sliver of light pierced the fog, showing me the way forward. I took a deep breath and decided to put the lessons from the book into action. It was time to be proactive. I began waking up a little earlier each day, ready to tackle the world before the distractions started. I set a goal to focus for just 20 minutes without interruption. I cleared my workspace, stowed my phone in another room, and sat quietly at my desk. On the first day, those 20 minutes felt incredibly long. My thoughts were like playful children, jumping around in my head and demanding my attention. I reminded myself of what I had learned, that it's okay to struggle and that progress is a part of growth. Slowly, I began to calm my racing mind. I focused on my goal, jotting down a list of potential career options. As I worked, the feeling of doubt tried to creep back in, but I pushed it away, reminding myself that even small steps count. When the timer finally went off, I opened my eyes and realized I had written 3 full ideas down. I couldn't believe my eyes. I had actually done it. Despite the difficulty, I celebrated my small win. It felt like finding a spark in the darkness. My heart raced with excitement and pride as I understood this was just the beginning. The next day, I again committed to focusing for 20 minutes. I was determined to improve. However, this time, my mind tried to trick me. I was doing well until I suddenly felt overwhelmed with thoughts. What if I can't make a decision? What if all these career ideas are wrong? My emotions bubbled up with questions I didn't have answers to. I hesitated, nearly letting fear pull me off track. But then, I recalled the idea of growth I learned from the book. I reminded myself that it was okay to face challenges. Pushing through my doubts, I tried to manage my emotions. I closed my eyes for a moment and took deep breaths, feeling the air fill my lungs. Then, I asked myself some simple questions. What would I advise a friend in my position? What small change can I make now that will help me today? Answering those questions helped calm me down. Slowly, I picked up my pen again and continued to work. That day, I wrote a short action plan that would help me explore those careers. It wasn't perfect, but I felt progress. However, just when I thought things were moving in the right direction, the challenges escalated. At work, there was a busy day ahead with long lines and upset customers. Somehow, all my new strategies felt far away as I stepped into that chaos. People were shouting about long waits, the cash register was beeping loudly, and I found the stress of the moment pinching at my heart. All I could think about was how easily I would slip back into old habits. My mind started racing again, plotting escape routes from the pressure. It worried me that I was not yet the person I aspired to be. After a few stressful hours, tired but proud of what I had accomplished, I came home and noticed my mood had shifted. The workday had tested me in ways I didn't expect, and while I made people smile during my shift, I realized I needed more time and practice to manage my emotions effectively when things got tough. As I reflected on my day, I recognized I was still on my path to clarity and growth. I reminded myself that every challenge was a chance to learn and that it's not about reaching the finish line quickly, but about embracing the journey, one step at a time. Just when I thought I was making progress, life threw me a big challenge that tested everything I had learned. It happened on a seemingly normal Friday at the grocery store. The manager announced that there would be a surprise inspection from the district supervisor, someone who would decide our worthiness as a store. The news sent tremors of fear through the air. My heart raced at the thought of being judged on a day when I had so much to manage. The store would be packed, customers entering in waves, and tensions would certainly run high. As the minutes passed and the crowd grew, old habits started rearing their ugly heads. It was as if my previous self surfaced like a dark shadow, whispering doubt into my mind. "You're not ready for this, Charlotte. What if everything falls apart? You'll be embarrassed if you fail," it said, making my stomach twist. I could feel the familiar grip of anxiety tightening around my chest. Even with my previous wins, I could feel my confidence beginning to slip away. Customers rushed in like a tide, scanning my face for support as they piled their items on the conveyor belt. I rushed around, scanning groceries and trying to keep a smile on my face, but the pressure was thick in the air. With each transaction, I felt my old fears glowing brighter like a flickering light bulb. I worried about making mistakes or missing important details that could cost the store points in the inspection. My hands shook slightly as I processed each order, and I could sense the rumbles of frustration building around me. Just when I thought I might have a handle on everything, a customer suddenly began to complain loudly. "Why is the line so slow? Don't you have more cashiers?" the person shouted. The comment felt like a punch to my chest. I turned to the other cashiers, hoping for a quick solution, but they also looked overwhelmed. The stress of the moment threatened to rob me of all I had built up in my mind. In that instant of chaos, doubt flooded my thoughts. "I can't do this," I thought in despair. "What if the supervisor sees me fail? What if my old self is right? Maybe I really am not cut out for this. I could feel my heart racing faster, fluttering with panic, and my breath became shallow. The ringing of the register echoed like a reminder that I was still stuck in the cycle, fighting to keep my head above water. As the inspection team entered the store, the pressure rose even higher. They wore serious expressions, and I felt their eyes on me. I wanted to sink into the floor and disappear. I thought about all my progress, yet here I was, frozen by fear. My head swirled with thoughts screaming that I was letting everyone down. I could feel tears brimming in my eyes, not from sadness, but from frustration and hopelessness. The moment felt heavy, like I was carrying the weight of the store on my shoulders. Yet, amidst the overwhelming feelings, a faint light flickered in the back of my mind. I remembered the importance of pushing through doubt. I wanted to hold on to the empowerment I gained from my journey, no matter how small. In this moment of chaos, I had to fight to remain steady. I took a deep breath, grasped the counter firmly, and closed my eyes for a moment. That flicker of determination urged me to find my center and to return to the lessons of growth and self-belief that had guided me. Even facing this big challenge, I knew deep within that I could either surrender to fear, letting my old self emerge, or I could learn to take control in difficult moments. And just as I felt knots in my stomach twist tighter, I chose to step forward. I would not let the panic define me or determine my fate. In the chaos of that busy day, I hit my breaking point. The noise of customers grew louder, and I felt trapped. My hands shook, and I could hardly breathe. Why am I here? I thought, the weight of doubt crashing down on me like a heavy wave. My progress and dreams felt like they were slipping away through my fingers, just like the last bits of sand in an hourglass. I wanted to run away and hide from this moment, feeling my hope fade into a shade of despair. Just when I was ready to give up, something shifted. I looked over and saw my supervisor, Maria, standing nearby. She had always been kind and encouraging, and as I walked through the storm of doubt, an unexpected spark emerged. Maria approached me with her calm presence, sensing the turmoil in my heart. "Hey, Charlotte," she said softly. "I see you're having a tough time. Remember when you handled that big delivery last month? You kept calm under pressure." That simple reminder was like a rope thrown to someone drowning. I could still recall that day and how I managed to get everything organized even when the odds were against me. As Maria continued to speak, her words wrapped around me, bringing a sense of clarity. "You've grown so much already," she added. "You shouldn't underestimate the progress you've made." As I looked into her eyes, I saw belief. A small piece of my own strength began to resurface in that moment. "You're right," I whispered, feeling a flicker of hope reignite. "I can do this. I've worked hard, and I owe it to myself to try." Then the day's chaos came flooding back, and again, I felt the waves of pressure wash over me. The noise and complaints swirled like a storm in my mind, drawing me back into panic. But Maria's words rang in my ears. "Stay strong," I recalled her saying. Slowly, I shifted my focus from my fear to my breath, slowly inhaling and exhaling to steady myself. I remembered all the small wins, the moments when I pushed through and found clarity amidst the chaos. Then, like a movie playing in my mind, I saw a memory from my past, my first day working as a cashier. Everything felt new and overwhelming then, just like today. I had faced my fears then, just as I was doing now. In that moment, I realized growth was not just about making big strides. It meant showing up every day, facing fears, small steps at a time. With this newfound understanding, I squared my shoulders and took a deep breath, standing taller, feeling more grounded. It felt as if lifting a weight off my chest. I recalled my purpose, to find clarity in my career and believe in myself. I had a choice. I could either sink back into the depths of doubt or rise above, understanding that challenges help me grow and evolve. "Okay, Charlotte. You've got this," I murmured more to myself. The chaos around me began to transform into a background hum, and I steered my focus back to the customers. I reminded myself that I had already come so far, and I was not going to let my fears steal that from me. My heart began to race not just from panic, but from the realization that I was learning to be resilient. Even in the most intense moments, growth was still possible. Feeling calm wash over me, I resumed my work with renewed energy. Old fears were fading, replaced by a sense of purpose that reminded me why I started this journey towards self-improvement. Just like that, the fog of doubt lifted slightly, revealing a clearer path ahead. I may not have all the answers just yet, but I knew that I was building my own future, one determined step at a time. As I stood in the crowded checkout line, a quiet strength began to settle within me. I realized that I could choose how to respond to the pressures swirling around me. My heart pounded, but this time, it felt like a drum urging me forward. I took a moment to envision the progress I had made and the growth I still had within me. The fear that once paralyzed me was now replaced by a flicker of courage that shouted, "Keep going." With determination fueling me, I focused deeply on the next customer. I smiled and greeted them warmly, ready to engage and make the transaction smooth. As I began scanning their items, I pushed aside the sea of distractions and anxiety. Instead, I narrowed my attention to each item, the barcodes, the prices, the smiles and frowns of those waiting in line anxiously. I maintained my focus on what was directly in front of me, but the pressure was still very real. One customer voiced frustration about the delay, and I felt the tension rise. I took a deep breath, feeling both scared and determined. "Just breathe," I reminded myself quietly as I glanced at the waiting customers. In that split second, I dug deep into my training and the strategies I had practiced, centering myself knowing that I had the power to remain calm and composed. I made a conscious choice to turn that negativity into something positive. "I apologize for the wait," I said, my voice steady despite the panic churning inside. "We are working as quickly as possible. Thank you all for your patience." Interacting with the customers in this way helped to ease my nerves. Slowly, I began to see nods of understanding. I remembered that sometimes a little kindness can go a long way. I stayed present in the task at hand while still keeping an eye on the unfolding situation. Hands began to move faster, and I scanned items quicker, trying to stay ahead of the growing line. When mistakes happened, and they did, I didn't let them derail me. If I accidentally scanned an item twice, I simply apologized to the customer and corrected it without dwelling on the mistake. Each time I faced a challenge, I felt resilience rising within me, pulling me upward, reminding me that setbacks didn't define my worth or my path. Around me, a calm driven by my own actions began to take form. Little by little, I noticed that my focus steadied further. With each passing moment, I started embracing the rhythm of the work rather than hiding from it. I felt the tides of fear shifting back, replaced by confidence that grew with each successful transaction. I was becoming part of a team, a part of a solution, rather than allowing doubts to hold me hostage. I glanced at Maria, who watched with a proud look on her face. Her presence reminded me that I was not alone. I had support all around me. Inspired by that thought, I turned my full attention to the last few customers in line. With renewed energy and a sharper focus, I completed their transactions efficiently and graciously. The store bustled around me, but it felt like I was carving my small bubble of calm against the storm. Eventually, the wave of waiting customers began to thin out, and as the supervisor observed from the sidelines, I focused on breathing through the tension and sought to finish strong. I knew challenges would always come up, but after facing this moment, I felt empowered. It wouldn't always be easy, but for today, I had persevered. I was not only moving forward, I was growing, one deliberate action at a time. As the final customer walked away with a satisfied smile, the weight of tension slowly began to lift from my shoulders. The chaos of the day faded into a quieter hum, a relief flooding over me like cool water on a warm day. I took a deep breath, feeling the energy in my body settle as I realized that I had made it through a challenging moment. I hadn't just survived, I had thrived. Maria approached, clapping gently as she came to my side. "You did a fantastic job, Charlotte," she said, her eyes sparkling with pride. I could hardly believe it. In the heat of the chaos and pressure, I had tapped into a strength I didn't know I had. Reflecting on that moment, I realized that this day was not just about surviving an inspection. It was about discovering parts of myself that had been hidden beneath layers of self-doubt. The ordeal had taught me that I was capable of facing challenges head-on, and what a difference it made when I chose to embrace that. As I cleaned up the checkout area, I thought about my journey so far. Every lesson from the book, Every small victory and even my moments of struggle had led me to this breakthrough. I had pushed through the temptation to give in. Instead of allowing fear to control me, I had found a way to take charge and maneuver through it. I didn't have a clear answer to what my future held, but that didn't matter as much right now. What mattered was the courage that I had learned to harness. Over the next few days, I carried that breakthrough with me. I noticed that I walked with a different posture and caught myself smiling more often. My coworkers seemed to notice as well. They greeted me with brightness and excitement that felt contagious. I engaged with customers more openly and even felt a sense of pride when they appreciated my help. Those brief interactions filled me with joy and reinforced the positive changes within me. Even in quieter moments, I took time to reflect. I began journaling again, writing down my thoughts and feelings about my day. I explored how pressure used to control me and how it no longer felt like an enemy. It felt empowering to recognize that even during tough times, I could summon the resilience to overcome obstacles. I completed entries with gratitude for the experience, thanking myself for not running away from the challenge. One evening, as I sat at my desk, a thought struck me: growth doesn't happen in a straight line. There are ups and downs, twists and turns along the way. Sometimes I would stumble, other times I would soar. But as long as I kept showing up and choosing to move forward, I would grow into the person I aspired to be. I realized that I had gained far more than I originally sought out to find. The challenges I'd faced had built a sense of mental toughness and resilience. Without those experiences, I may never have uncovered the strength deep within me. This understanding was invaluable. I knew now that I could meet future uncertainties with a mindset that embraced growth and change. With each reflection, I felt more ready to take on the next steps in my life. The journey ahead was bright. I could see it shimmering on the horizon. Each challenge was no longer a threat, but a chance to elevate myself further. I was transforming into my best self, slowly but surely, and I was excited to see where this path would lead. With each passing day, I felt the newfound strength settling into my daily life like a comfortable coat. The doubts that used to haunt me began to fade into the background, replaced by a sense of purpose and confidence. I started implementing the lessons I had learned not just at work but also in the little moments of my life. Finishing my shifts at the grocery store was no longer an overwhelming chore. Instead, it became an opportunity to shine. I began to focus more on my interactions with customers. Instead of just scanning items, I offered genuine smiles and friendly conversations. I noticed that engaging with people was refreshing, not just for them, but for me too. As I chatted with regular customers, I found joy in connecting with others. Their smiles reflected back my new mentality, creating a wonderful cycle of positive energy that motivated me throughout my shifts. At home, I applied this stronger mindset in small but meaningful ways. Morning routines once felt dull and repetitive, but now I approached them with enthusiasm. I woke up a little earlier each day to plan my tasks, using a sticky note to remind myself of the goals I wanted to achieve. Instead of scrolling endlessly through my phone, I dedicated those extra moments to reading or journaling, activities that fueled my soul with inspiration and clarity. Later, as I savored my first cup of coffee, I would sit quietly, preparing my mind for the day ahead. Even my friendships started to deepen. I began reaching out to friends more often, inviting them over for casual gatherings or outings. We would share stories, laughing together in a way I hadn't experienced in a while. One evening, during a game night, a friend complimented my positivity. "You seem so different, Charlotte." "It's like you're glowing," she said, her eyes bright with delight. Her words wrapped around me like a warm hug, confirming that others could see the changes within me, a reflection of all the hard work I had put in. Work meetings transformed from sources of anxiety into platforms where I could share my ideas confidently. I practiced speaking up, leading discussions, and offering solutions. Once upon a time, the fear of being judged silenced my thoughts. Now, I found myself participating more actively, offering feedback and contributing to team goals. Remarkably, my efforts started to shift the dynamics within the team, making the atmosphere more collaborative and encouraging for everyone around me. But not every day was perfect. Occasionally, old habits surfaced. I sometimes found myself feeling the tug of distractions or the shadow of doubt. There were moments when I would catch my mind racing during busy shifts, tempting me with worries. However, this time, I recognized those thoughts and gently guided myself back to center. I focused on my breath, closing my eyes for just moments to refocus before returning to the task at hand. This mental awareness quickly became a helpful tool. The practice strengthened my resolve even more. On one particularly challenging day, a sudden spike in customers sent my heart racing. My instincts kicked in, and I felt overwhelmed for a moment. Yet, instead of succumbing to panic, I took a moment to pause. I remembered how I had made it through tough moments before. I recited my mantra in my mind: "You are capable. You have grown." It was a simple reminder, but it centered me and silenced the chaos. I decided to take it one customer at a time, allowing each transaction to be a small victory on its own. These transformations culminated into a powerful routine, reinforcing my bulletproof mindset that continued to evolve. The lessons I had integrated into my life brought me challenges, but they also fueled my growth. With steady progress, I embrace life's uncertainties with courage, opening doors to even greater possibilities ahead. I was not just surviving, I was truly living. The journey was not just about change, it was about becoming the best version of myself, illuminated with newfound strength and resilience. As I stood behind the checkout counter one evening, I felt a deep sense of contentment wash over me. The end of the workday approached, and as customers exchanged goodbyes with smiles, I couldn't help but reflect on how far I had come. The weight of uncertainty that once rested so heavily on my shoulders had transformed into an uplifting awareness of strength and capability. I no longer recognized the person who had timidly scanned groceries just a few months ago. I mentally traced my journey back, remembering the days full of confusion and doubt. That distant version of me had been anxious, afraid to step out of a comfort zone, and burdened by a sense of hopelessness. Now, I embrace challenges with open arms, holding steadfast to my newfound confidence. Just the thought of standing strong under pressure brought a smile to my face. Occasionally, the remnants of my old self flared up. I still faced doubts and moments of stress, yet it no longer felt debilitating. With each uncomfortable encounter, I relied on the tools I had collected: deep breathing techniques, intentional focus, and the belief that growth happens over time. I realized that it was okay to feel scared sometimes, as long as I didn't let fear control my actions. On Fridays now, we often had team huddles discussing ways to improve our work environment. It amazed me how I willingly contributed ideas, advocating for better customer experiences. I felt a current of connection with my coworkers that I had never experienced before. Each person seemed eager to grow and improve, and together, we encouraged one another to embrace challenges as opportunities for learning. One quiet evening, Maria approached me while I stacked new items on the shelves. She noticed how engaged I had become and confided in me. "I'm proud of you, Charlotte. You've come such a long way," she said. Hearing her appreciation made my heart swell. I realized that her support, combined with my effort, forged a path of resilience that not only helped me grow, but also positively impacted those around me. As I pondered this journey, I recognized that my story was about more than just a job. It was about uncovering a deeper understanding of who I am. I learned that mental resilience is not about never feeling fear. It's about feeling it and still pushing forward. This journey taught me that focus is a powerful ally and that growth is a continuous practice. It showed me the importance of surrounding myself with supportive people, a community that believed in one another. With this insight, I looked ahead to the future with optimism. I knew I would face more challenges, both personally and professionally. Life is unpredictable after all. But now, embracing uncertainty was less about caution and more about excitement. My experiences had taught me that obstacles can become stepping stones, shaping my character and expanding my abilities. Each day would bring new chances to grow even more. One last thought echoed softly in my mind during those calm moments at work: every challenge is an opportunity. It was a lesson that resonated now more than ever, reminding me to accept whatever comes next with grace and courage. I found comfort in the idea that the journey of self-discovery is ongoing, and I was ready to meet it head-on. With a heart full of hope, I welcomed the adventures that awaited me, confident in my ability to navigate whatever came next. The future was bright, and I felt ready to embrace each twist and turn.